Welcome everybody, back here, finally back in action. I know that you guys have received an email where we really said we're going to try to step up our game with the wine club. Part of that is being on time, and this one is not. I do have a decent excuse, I think, of a brand new baby. 2 weeks ago, little Willow was born to Jessica and I, and we're having so much fun, even though we're now, I'm 40. She's not quite 40 yet. She'll definitely make you know that too. But it's been so much fun, and we're really enjoying our time with our new baby. Especially having a 20-year-old daughter holding your newborn daughter is quite the experience. We're going to be basing most of this month in Spain. We start out with this beautiful Paramata. This is a cava. It is a Brut Nature, meaning it's extra dry. And it's also a Gran Reserva, means it spends a lot of time. It's from 2016, but was disgorged last year in 2021. Really fell in love with this. One of our favorite little purveyors, Ilis, brought this in and was really excited about it, and there was a reason why. On the nose, you're getting in those kind of apple and pineapple kind of notes. Not a whole lot of bready richness, creaminess, not a whole lot of that on the nose profile, but pretty exciting and very, very expressive on the nose. On the palate, it drinks much like champagne with a little bit more warmth, I think, than a lot of champagnes. It definitely stays crisp and clear. It's not super bready or super rich, buttery kind of style. Much more kind of upper end acidity that I think would pair exceptionally well with anything oysters, caviar, nigiri, like kind of any of those raw fish preparations I think would be really good. I also think that this would accept green flavors really well, so like arugula salad or some sort of salad with leafy greens, I think would be really delicious and tasty with this. But very fun, Gran Reserva 2016. Brut Nature by Paramata Cava. Next up, we got Posterity Cider Works. These guys are local, and when he came in here, I was like another cider producer. A lot of California ciders are a little sweet for me, and I love Basque Style Cider. So Spanish wines, why would you have this on there? That's because this is his bittersweet cider, made very much in the vein of northern Spain ciders, Basque ciders. Those are my favorite. They're very crisp and clean and beautiful, and this definitely is that. They have a tasting room as well, so I would highly suggest traveling out there. Maculune Hill? I don't know how to say that. It's terrible, but it's very close, so you can go and check them out. They source pretty much all old apple orchards. Also dealing with a lot of wild fermentations, so they're really trying to go old school with the ciders, and I think that they take on the persona of that in the glass. This one is just absolutely pummeling me with guava. There's a variant of guava that grows around here locally, and we've used it quite a few times in our menus, and this just has it all over the place. Now it's like almost strange that that's all I smell. It's very cool. On the palate, it is sparkling, but lightly sparkling, which is kind of nice. It's got no sweetness, but a lot of fruit forwardness. I'm still getting a ton of guava characteristics on the palate. I think this would go well with Thai food very easily, with any kind of Southeast Asian food with a little bit of spice. I think this would be a wonderful pairing. We're actually going to start doing a little bit more of that now that we know that we have these guys close to us. Also, I think if you did roasted fish, that would go really well with this. We actually did a dish of roasted fish with guava sauce, and I think this would pair with it extremely well. Very fun. Posterity Cider Works, all small batch, beautiful, dry styles. They do have some sweet styles too of ciders right here in the Sacramento area. Next up is kind of a cool story. As Jessica and I were on our holiday while the restaurant was closed down, in our second leg in Spain, we went from Barcelona and drove through the mainland of Spain up to the northern coast and ended up in San Sebastian. While driving through, we saw tons of vineyards, and I started doing a little bit more research on the Navarra region. They don't produce a huge amount of high-end wines per se, but they definitely produce a ton of wine. And then I found this, which was so fun. It's called La Roya. It's by Maximo Abete. This is Grenache Gris, which is one of the rare pink varietals. There's not a whole lot of pink grapes out there. It's either red or white, but this is a pink varietal. The skin is thick and gives you a lot of content in the wines. This was a very fun pairing. I treated this with vegetables, like heavy vegetables, because it does have, I think, like an earthy, rich kind of characteristic to it. But let's see, on the nose, not super expressive, it's not jumping out of the glass, but definitely getting some vegetal, mineral. By mineral, I mean like, you think about the smell of like wet rock. You can actually smell a lot of wet rocks, and I think that comes out in the glass. Very appealing and fun on the nose. On the palate, exactly how I remember. It grips your palate. It has beautiful acidity to it, which for a warm region like Navarra is great. I think that wines there can get a little overripe at times and end up with high alcohol, low acid. But this has really beautiful, crisp, clean, greener acidity to it. It's definitely got like almost turnip flavors to me on the palate. Cooked turnip, not raw turnip. Not spicy at all, but still with that little punch brightness at the end. I still stick to the idea of roasted vegetables. We're getting into the cooler season now. First actual day of fall. It happened just yesterday. So I would definitely think roasted root vegetables with this, farro, like that richy kind of maltier tones of food, I think would go really well with something like this. Leroy is such a fun wine. I hope that you really enjoy it. To me, this is a winter white, so definitely a white wine that I find really appealing during the winter times. But very fun that we got to drive through that area and then source a wine directly from that area when we were actually doing the menu. So next up is another fun, cool white wine. There's quite a bit of white wines on this because it was during summer, August. So this is by Pardas, and it's called Blau Cru. It's from 2019. This is 100% Malvasia. If you've never heard of Malvasia, it's not surprising. It's a native varietal to Spain, and one that I think a lot of newer winemakers are really trying to push because it is so fun and expressive as a white wine. This maker has 2 wines in this pack, so this first one is really fun. On the nose, it smells almost like an Alsatian Riesling with no residual sugar. You don't get that on the nose, but it definitely has those kind of like terpenes that I think would make it kind of smell and taste a little diesel-y or kerosene or gasoline, whatever you want to call it, that a lot of Mosel Rieslings have. It's also fairly floral. It has a lot of expressive notes of like bright yellow flowers. I actually think is very fun. On the palate, it's very much like a dry Riesling. This really reminds me of a dry Alsatian Riesling. Alsatian Rieslings have this kind of like strange earthiness to them that separates them from something like a Mosel Valley Riesling, but this is absolutely stunningly delicious. It's from the Penedès region of Spain. It's 12.5 on the alcohol, which is just high enough to really give you some expressive notes, but not high enough to be tasting it. So this isn't a hot wine at all. Very, very delicious. Definitely a great pairing for something with a little bit of smoke and a little bit of salt. So you might want to do like a smoked salmon dip with bread and maybe some like, you can go classic and do like some capers and pickled red onions or something like that. I think anything like that, I really love the idea of smoke, not because there's any smoke in the wine at all, because I feel like these sort of wines really love something with a little bit of smokiness. I also think you could do like heavily grilled with a little bit of char, either quail or chicken or something like that. It just really is going to lift up with a bright acidity, so you can hit it with some sweet notes, you can hit it with some char notes. You can really kind of balance this out in a very fun way. So Malvasia from Penedès in Spain by Padras, and that brings us to the second Padras wine. This is another native varietal, so we really tried to push the native varietals when it came to the Spain menu. As is the wine club, we really try to make sure that people are trying wines that they haven't had before or don't know about, because so often people fall in love. The Sumol, which this one is, was one of those wines. Everyone loved this wine. We served it with grilled seafood and a spicy green sauce, just to be clear. There was a play on Paella Verde that this one paired with, and people, when they saw the Suscrofa, which is the name of this, which means wild boar, People were like, it's red wine with seafood, and we said yes, of course, because of that balance of a slightly spicy roasted green sauce, and then of course the earthy kind of cedary characteristics of saffron in the rice that we served with it really gave way to a beautiful pairing. And this was one of our favorite pairings from the whole thing. So I will tell you before I even smell this, I know this wine pairs so well with late season jalapenos or padrones or anything with some good spice that's a green pepper. Char them up, blend them up, do a little saffron rice, and then whatever proteins you want. You could definitely do seafood, grill it for sure. Or you could do, I think you could do beef with this. I think you could do pretty much any sort of protein, but those driving flavors of saffron and a lightly spicy green roasted sauce is going to be absolutely money with this. On the nose, very red fruited. It has huge bright red notes to it, very crisp and clean in its nose. I almost smell a little bit of peppercorn in there to me, like green peppercorn. It's pretty beautiful. It's expressive on the nose. You're going to have a lot of fun just smelling this wine. On the palate, right off, you got that big, bright, tart, red acidity. Think raspberries with that tartness to them, where it almost is a little punchy, or like not completely ripe cherries. Really bright red fruit, which I think is such a fun pairing with anything with a little bit of spice, because this isn't a high acid wine. It's definitely got medium plus acidity to it. But this is just calling out for exactly that dish that we paired it with. So get yourself a little bit of saffron, make some nice saffron rice, make a little roasted pepper sauce, and then whatever protein you want. It's big enough to go with something like beef or pork or duck or anything like that, because the acidity is high enough, but also tame enough to go with something like grilled seafood. But you do need to grill it. Remember that, because I think that little bit of char, that real kind of pronounced seafood flavor is what really took it over the top with the red wine. But this, once again, from Pardas, from Panetas, beautiful wine, really fun. I hope you guys enjoy. And now we're going to do something that we've never done before, a dessert wine. So often, I love when people say port, and I say, well, I like port too, but have you tried other dessert wines? Usually the answer is no. So this is by Manuel Ergon. This is in the southern tip of Spain. It's called Los Cuatro Moscatel is the style of grape. This is Muscat de Alexandria, so the same as my favorite dessert wine in the whole world, Ben Rie by Tanafagato. But this one is an 8-year Solera. Solera meaning that they have barrels of wine that date back 8 years ago, and then every year they add some wine and take some wine out. So they always have residual wine from previous vintages in that barrel. Some of these Solera systems can go back 100 or more years. Obviously that gets very expensive, but a very cool way of making wine, and something that sherry has really kind of been the benchmark of since the beginning. This is a lightly sweeter sherry. You're going to see by the color that it's pretty dark. It's got like those nice kind of coffee, cola kind of look to it. This is oxidative as well, so these barrels get oxygen in them. They usually build a level of mold on the top called floor, and then that stops all of the oxidation from happening and slows the process down. So there's some sherries that are very oxidative, some sherries that aren't oxidative at all. We've been having some lately that are really kind of blowing our minds, but this one is definitely a dessert style of sherry. On the nose, super fun. This is very ripe dates. Definitely vanilla. You get some caramely kind of notes in there. Imagine like toffee, but always this background of fruit. There's always that kind of date, raisin, kind of those kind of characteristics in there that I think are really delicious. It's a little bit viscous, but not heavy. Very enjoyable. It's not super sweet either. It's very well balanced. Still has some acidity to it. That oxidative quality kind of rounds out the sweetness at the end and makes it a full, beautiful experience when you're drinking it. this is totally something I would drink on its own for an after dinner kind of snack or dessert, I would say. Pour yourself a glass of this and just enjoy it over a little bit of time. If I'm pairing with this is kind of fun. You could go peanut butter and jelly flavors with this. You could also go salted caramel and chocolate with ice cream with this. You could also go like roasted peach tart or something like that. It's a very versatile sherry, so I hope you have a lot of fun with it. Sherries are something that a lot of people would right off the bat say, I don't like sherry. Because if you've had one of the oxidative, high acid, kind of really unctuous sherries, you might not enjoy that. I'm not a huge fan of most sherries. I keep trying them, and there's definitely some that I enjoy, but a lot of them just don't reach my palate. So this one is kind of fun because it's a great gateway drug, quote unquote, for sherry, because like I said, this has some very voluptuous, beautiful fruit to it. It's got decent acidity. It doesn't have huge oxidative qualities, and pairs well with so many different desserts. You could even do something, crazy, like we did a tobacco caramel, I'm pretty sure, on a dish with this, and it was absolutely lights out, like really, really fun and interesting. So, very different lineup this month. Hope that you guys make it in to pick up your boxes. Do realize that we are a very tiny restaurant and we do not have a ton of storage space, so once we do release the wines, we'd love you guys to come in and get them as soon as you can. There are people here all day. I know we said this in the email, but there are people here from 10 a.m. on. So if you let us know that you want to pick up on any of those days, we can pull your box for you and have it ready. Otherwise, if you come in during service, if we have a table open or table 20, we can sit you down, get you a little glass of sparkling wine, maybe even a little bite to eat. And then we're going to announce our first tasting party very soon, where you can bring your friends if you'd like for a ticket price, but you and a guest of yours get in for free. We'll open some different wines that are not in your packages and pair those up with some little bites and have some fun. So thank you so much for joining our wine club. Thank you for being here. Any suggestions, comments, bad, negative, good, positive, whatever else, leave them below in the video. We always like to read those and adjust what we can to continue trying to get people to keep drinking really awesome wine and stuff that they've never heard of. Have a great, great rest of your week.